Well, folks, welcome back to another episode of Rimshots with Sean. Brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. I always like to say I am not a corporate sellout. Yes, I am. And we had one of our more popular guests who is also doing his own thing in the, we'll call it the liquor world. We have the infallible Mark Gus Scott III from Trixter.
Infallible, I don't know about.
Well, hey, man.
I lobby against that.
Good to see you again, man.
I make mistakes. When I do, they can be pretty darn impactful.
Well, I don't know. Last time we had a good time. So how you been doing since the last time we chatted?
A little busy, a little frazzled, to be honest with you. I mean, honestly, for some reason, for me, it's a hell of a lot, I don't know, easier to beat the living crap out of a drum set and sweat my ass off as opposed to sit in a chair, dial a phone all day. Yeah. So I'm telling you what, it seems to be much more laborious to do the latter. And it shouldn't be, but for me, it is. I go figure. But it's been a hell of a ride, this whole thing.
So how give us an update on the vodka, because last time we spoke, we were months away from it being released, and how are things going on that front?
Well, I've got about 1 month till it releases now, so it's getting exciting. But I'm biting my nails. Also, got the first batch of labels in, and they put the glue on the wrong side of the goddamn label. So when I tell you, like, it's laborious to sit in a chair and dial a phone all day, there's a reason to it. You know, there's a whole thing to it. It's like, it's even hard to explain. I mean, who would think that you'd run into problems like that? And man, I'm telling you, with every inch that I try to dig and make something happen here, that's the problem. They got one of the labels, they printed in the mirror image. It's like, really, guys? How the hell did you pull that one off? So, you know, between the diameter of the neck for the cork to fit in the bottle, it's like, oh my God, every little thing is a complete pain in the ass. And I hate to really say that. Yeah, you always see the guy, oh, everything's great, but I'm just being honest with you. I have a feeling if I did this 3 years ago, it might have been a lot easier. Timetables, supply chains, things like that. I think we're, speaking from this entrepreneurial side, I have an interesting viewpoint on the whole thing and how it has differed from things I've done in the past. It's much more laborious today, that's for sure.
Well, and I'll tell you, I don't know if this is affecting you folks down south, but we've had for 2 weeks, we've had our nation's capital with truckers and, the bridge going into Windsor, Ontario from Detroit was blocked. Our illustrious leader passed a motion yesterday to basically invoke what's akin to the War Measures Act, where he can do whatever the hell he wants to break it up. Is that affecting you down there?
Well, it probably will to some degree. And to be honest with you, right now, I'm going to find out probably in the next week or two, because I got some truck things coming in, like bottle shipments and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to see if that does affect it. I was going to ask you the same thing. I mean, being not connected, but does that affect you guys? How are your store shelves? What's going like? This is the side that maybe we don't see in America. How is life truly affected? We see the trucker convoy posts. And I think it's amazing, the demonstrations they have. I see bouncy houses and big board games like Connect Four and stuff like that. They're playing with their kids in the middle of the street. I mean, that's freaking hysterical. They're literally having a party, not like in Seattle, we saw people burning down the town. So, right. I mean, how are you affected as a person just outside the circle, so to speak? I mean, you got food on your shelves out there?
So, I mean, I personally, I go into the liquor store, I can still get beer and whatever I'm drinking. Going to the grocery store, there's still things there. I mean, certain stores you will go to, and they're a little bare. I don't know if it's as dire as maybe what you're seeing in the media. And I'll be honest with you. I watched CNN a lot when Trump was in there, because it's like, what the heck's going to go on today? I haven't watched a lot of American news lately, so I don't know how it's affecting you guys. I think it's more in Ottawa, Toronto, places like that, where they're really kind of seeing it, because they're taking over neighborhoods and really affecting people.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you say really affecting people, and here's the big problem that a lot of people don't see. Well, there are many that do understand, there's many that do not understand. What is a true reflection versus what some people attempt to make the reflection? That there's somewhat of a variance between what the truth has to say and what some certain media outlets tend to promote. That there is not necessarily, there is a variance between the two.
Valid point. So in Ottawa, for example, and I mean, I wasn't there, so I was, get it off the news, but they were parked in residential areas and tying up traffic and things like that. There was a bit of an element
that looks apparent as far as tying up traffic. I don't think there's any way around that.
No, absolutely. There was also an element of, I don't even know what I don't want to refer to it a certain way, but, certain people that I guess weren't there for some of the reasons that other people were. And it was kind of muddying the waters, which was unfortunate. I think for me, more than anything else, whether you're for or against what this is all about, which is the truckers are opposed to the vaccination mandate. I think what you're seeing is people are just finally, they're at the end of the rope, and they just don't know what to do. They're tired of being mandated and restricted and not being listened to. And whether it's right or it's wrong, or you agree or disagree, I just think that that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, it just seems like it's escalating to some degree that I don't want to name any person in particular, but head government officials are not backing down or listening to the people, that if anything, they're becoming more combative. And the sanctions that the penalties that they're imposing appear to be more and more severe, which is fueling the fire for extended campouts on the street, extended convoys, things like that. So it doesn't look like there's a real end in sight unless it ends very, very terrible.
Well, I think what you're seeing too, and I mean, I guess we're dependent upon what you read. People felt there was nothing being done for the last couple of weeks. Now, all of a sudden, boom, we're getting serious. So I hope it ends in a good way for people. I mean, you don't want to see violence. You don't want to see people die. You don't want to see anything like that. And we move on. As far as things on shelves and stuff like that, I personally haven't experienced it. But it's hard to say with the business where you're depending on, let's call it what it is, man. These folks, guys, women, they move stuff. That's what they do. And, if things are affected, it will, they're talking the auto industry right now is going to have a hard time, getting cars off the assembly line. So I think we're not going to see it for another few months. I think really feel it.
You know what? It's kind of weird because even before this, we had trucking problems to begin with. Our supply chains were not moving like they were. Well, it wasn't just that. Let's go back even further. When we had shutdowns, production lines were shut down. People complain about bullets. There's a lot of different things that people could complain about. And yeah, there are some store shelves that are a little light on stock. I don't find all the brands that I'm accustomed to seeing on the shelves like I used to, prior to pandemic. So it's a little weird. And some of that is American, there's lack of people that want to work in America. I think that's a real problem. Now, God forbid, more and more of these truckers go to support the Canadian truckers. And I'm in favor of that sort of thing. I'm just, being a little selfish, being an American. It's like, hey, I need my bottles, man.
No, for sure.
I want so it does concern me that if the workforce is light already, and more of a percentage of that workforce is going to go, up north to help support Canada, whether you believe it or not. And quite frankly, I do. I do stand with the truckers. I mean, I understand. I feel really what a weird situation it is. But man, I would stand on their side. But again, being a selfish American, it's like, you want to make sure that, like, I'll be honest, I got a launch coming out next month. I hope the goddamn well I get my bottles before goddamn next month. It'll take me a day or two to fill them. I just need to get them.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you.
So if they're coming from California, I just want to, I'm only like, a state away.
Yeah. And I think that, and that's a good point. And I think the other thing through all this, and I mean, we talked about this before, and, and I can't believe two drummers are getting this, salacious politically about things. But I think people are kind of at the point where, we've been kind of told what to do, and we've been told what we can and cannot do by people who really haven't lost any income. They've got government jobs, they're politicians. And I think people are finally wrapping their heads around that. And I think, and this is again just my humble 2 cents, I think they're saying enough's enough. Like we got to get moving, we got to get on with life.
I'm with you, my friend. I mean, the idea also, if people speak that loudly in a certain area, to the idea that there wouldn't be a representative or someone to possibly meet with government and come to a negotiation. That's the way I think the world's supposed to work, particularly in a democratic society. So I'm really I'm a little puzzled when I hear what's happening, that things are getting worse, not necessarily coming to a resolution.
Yeah, and here's hoping. I mean, we're always kind of known as the nice people, the peaceful people up here. So hopefully that pans out.
I got to applaud you guys on that, man. That is the coolest damn thing. And I keep seeing more and more video and people singing and dancing, and the kids are out there. It's like, really?
Yeah.
And then sometimes we hear reports, the insidious occupation and the violence. And I'm looking at these kids dancing. I'm like, really? Yeah. Like, let me send you some video of Seattle, pal, or Chicago. You know what I mean? Don't tell me.
No, absolutely.
Like Iraq. So, I mean, I think it's awesome that the people have taken a stand, but they've done so, at least from what I've seen, and I think a lot of other people have seen, that the more true reflective reality is that, hey, this is truly a peaceful process. I'm not saying it's 100%, but man, when they were starting to throw statistics, how many people got arrested in a 5-day period? It was like 12 people in 5 days. It's like, really? You go out Friday night in New York City, you're going to get a hell of a lot more than that, and that's without an occupation. So I don't know, man. It looks like, they're doing pretty good on that side, but I really hope some decent progress is made.
Yeah, I do as well, and I guess we'll see over the next couple of days. I want to shift gears for a second, because just before we went on, I kind of asked you, what you were good talking about, what you weren't. You're like, let her fly, and something that's really funny. Every time you and I text, and I don't know how the heck I'm always driving somewhere, and I'll get a text from you, and within 2 minutes, a Trixter song comes on Hair Nation. I don't know if that's planned. But
I'm working my algorithms.
That a boy. But we talked a little bit about this before, but I kind of want to get, there's this whole thing about, people kind of revolting against Joe Rogan being on Spotify and this whole thing, and, Neil Young pulling his tunes and Joni Mitchell and what have you. I didn't ask you this before, but your take on the streaming services and how they've affected, I guess, musicians' income from, the way it used to be versus now.
All right. Well, there's two different things that you're talking about here. Well, the main question being the income, but the Joe Rogan thing is the I guess the thing that's been brought to light more recently that has woken people up to something. And number one, in regard to your question, how has streaming services affected income as far as musicians are concerned? And I must be very honest with you, it's affected it substantially, not a little bit, substantially. Well, first off, let's make people understand something. The way it was, let's say 25 years ago, before internet, so to speak, or before there was such a thing as a streaming service, the only way to get your music was either by the radio. Having a satellite radio was just coming to light. But either that, you go to a record store and you pick up a CD, or you're going to have it, sent by Amazon, or you're going to get it from the radio station. All right. Now, when a radio station played your song, you got X amount of dollars for it, or whatever. It wasn't a huge amount, but in comparison to a streaming service, it was leaps and bounds more so than what you're going to get today. I have a buddy who's a producer guy, and he's in the Michigan area, fun thing. And I don't remember the exact figures, but he got a check for, I believe, a quarterly check, and he had 22,500 plays and got something like $250. You know what I mean? Yeah, and this guy's produced stuff with very, very, very names you would certainly know, and they were upper echelon headliners of arenas, things like that. So to hear it come from him, and all the projects that he did, not just one band, like let's say me, and I'm just a drummer guy. So yeah, it certainly makes a big difference. But even for the big guys, like if you're a Michael Jackson or something on that level, what you would make per record versus what you're going to make per stream, it's a different ballgame. And people also don't understand the way CDs and cassettes and things like that were selling 20 years ago. They're not selling the same amount of records these days. People are just streaming them, or even the download. So it's a little weird. As financially speaking, it is a substantial difference. So when I first heard that Neil Young had a problem with Joe Rogan, I said, hey, what a masterstroke. This guy's not really pissed at Joe. He's just pissed he's not getting paid the same he was. He'll make a big deal. I'm pulling my stuff off Spotify, and then he'll promote the fact, and then people go buy his crap somewhere else and make more money, which I thought was masterful. But, and then the whole thing with bananas. When you take things out of context right like that, and I got to tell you, I stand with Joe Rogan 100%. And let me tell you something, if you're an artist, you don't like Spotify, then get the hell off. It's really, that's America, and I think that what the rest of the world says the same thing. You have a choice to do what you want to do as an artist. You don't have to be on any platform you don't want to. So if you're mad about something, big name, then fine. And let me tell you something. Someone feels bad about Joe Rogan. This is a free country. You have the right to do that, but you also, have a responsibility to change the station if you want to. If you don't like what you hear, But that people lose sight of a lot of this stuff, and I think also they take stuff out of context. I think Joe is 100% justified in what he said and the things he says on a regular basis, and he also is very justified in getting opinions from people that might be somewhat controversial, but most people can't handle it. Joe shouldn't be responsible for someone else that can't handle his podcast. Yep. That goes without saying.
Well, and it's to the point now, especially online, where you have an opinion and it's not, the opinion of the masses. You're kind of attacked and whatever. I had a couple posts. I watched the Super Bowl. I kind of checked out during the half. I just wasn't interested. Could have cared less. And I had a couple of people say, "You're crazy. That was the best." Well, to me, it wasn't. I mean, like, hey, Prince. I wasn't a Bruno Mars fan until I saw his halftime show. That's not to say that I didn't respect what those people were doing. But I go and I say I didn't enjoy it, and all of a sudden I'm this guy that's just dumping on that form of music. To me, it's just crazy. You just can't you can't do anything now on social media.
Yeah, well, I think it's also a client. I think we're somewhat, I hate to say it, trained that way. Mm-hmm. Over the past few years in particularly with I'm not going to put a time, but I think people know where I'm alluding to. I just don't want to say it. But when certain people were leading America, there was this very strong opposition. And they took some real hints from a playbook that was written a long time ago from an outside force that really knew how to create a rift within our country or within our society. And they were very effective in doing so. Never before has America been so divided as far as what one set of people believe in and another set of people believe. And that gap is ever widening. And one of the big reasons why I started American Premium Vodka. The country can't move forward if we're segregated like that. And the people, particularly in America, have to realize that there's more that unites us than divides us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what the symbol of American Premium Vodka is about. It's not about just vodka. The thing that fueled me to do this, that put that label on there, is to make it something that brings America back together so we can move forward and let our Canadian brothers come on and join the party.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, quite honestly, normally I only do promotions like within the States, but man, you guys are cool. and let me tell you, there's more and more support from Americans that lend our hearts to what's going on out there. And they got physical support from us also. I mean, I'll go on record as saying I'm a huge supporter of the truckers that are convoying. I understand. I feel their pain because if I live in Canada, I'd be right there with them with a big freaking Canadian flag on top of my rig going, "Come on, motherfucker." but here's the thing. The thing that bothers me more than anything is that the poor people just want their fucking freedom to choose, particularly when there doesn't appear to be an overwhelming amount of real scientific evidence to support that any kind of mandate's really going to make a difference. And here's proof of the pudding. All these people out there that are convoying, well, there's quite a lot of them, right? They're not all wearing masks, are they? And are people dropping in the streets dying? No, they are not. So, you know what I mean? It's funny how, from an objective standpoint, a lot of people say that the science is changing. And the science changes because 18 wheels make a change. Yeah, and not because of the CDC putting out a statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think that's just, I made the comment. I mean, people, when this thing was new, they were trusting the people to say that, hey, it's a moving target. We don't know. But I just think they're just exhausted. They're just exhausted from maybe not being listened to. They're exhausted from, I guess, just being told what they can and cannot do. And they, right now, some of them feel like they're existing, they're not living. And I think that's a huge problem for an awful lot of people.
I agree with that, particularly when they're told in the face of a lack of evidence to really support the idea of what they want to do, And if anything, it's been proven that some of the steps that have been taken in the past have caused more harm than actual good. And I think people are starting to wake up to that sort of fact, and they won't be dictated in the eyes of wrongdoing or pointlessness just to suffer. And particularly when they're losing their businesses, they're losing their homes, things like that. It's horrible. You know, I mean, they're just trying to cling on to life for crying out loud. Yeah, more so than the vaccine, than the virus is going to take them. And that I find, again, I stand on the side with the truckers on this one. That's for sure.
So you mentioned, people up here, and you mentioned people up in Canada, and I have a bunch of friends that go to the Monsters of Rock cruises all the time, and a friend of mine actually just played in the one this past weekend. And
anybody get sick?
So what he did tell me is that there was COVID on the ship, but it was contained, and that all his people came back totally negative, and they had to do testing almost every day. But he said it felt good. It felt good to be actually living and doing what he liked to do again.
I got to tell you, I mean, I'm in Arizona, man, and we're out every weekend. And if maybe I should capture some more video of what it's like on weekends. And I'm telling you, I don't know what the stats say, but I keep seeing the same people every weekend.
Yeah,
crowds get bigger. So I mean, I don't know. I just want. We can go on forever, and I hate to even talk about it because it's so ridiculous. I mean, for the people that haven't worn masks, it's been a couple of years now, and everyone's still alive. So,
yeah.
I'm not saying that maybe we should watch my tongue. There have been people that have lost their lives to this thing. There are also people that have lost their lives to the flu, to pneumonia, and things like that. They've lost their lives more so to complications that happened in the hospital that developed after they got COVID. So there's a lot of different ways you can look into this thing. And there's a lot smarter people than me that have done documentaries on the whole thing and how wacky this whole ordeal has been. It certainly is more of a control substance than it is an actual real threat to life. And I think we're having a problem with that. Not for everybody. I mean, listen, I've gotten the flu many times in my life, and here I am. There's many people that have gotten the flu and died. The flu took, if I'm not mistaken, please check, between 40 and 80,000 people a year around the world. So, I mean, that's a heavy death toll. Now, what I find very interesting is that death toll is also very synonymous with the toll that COVID has taken.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some interesting ways you could look at the whole thing. And again, I'm not smart enough. I'm the first one to volunteer the fact that I'm not smart enough to give you the whole 9 yards. But I can direct you to some people that really do have some insight. A documentary called COVID Land is something everybody should watch because it offers some very interesting insight from some very smart people as to what's going on.
Well, and I mean, I'll I guess give my final 2 cents on it like this. One, I can't tell anybody how what their degree of safety or non-safety is. I know what mine is, and I know that when I was told to stay home, I did, and when I was told I could go out, I did. I got COVID in May, beginning of May. I didn't have a single symptom. I got my boosters because in order to work.
Hold on. You mean you were told you had COVID, you didn't have a single symptom, correct?
Well,
all right. Maybe. There's a difference, my friend. I'm just pointing that out.
And that's fair. But I'm kind of on the side now. Well, hey, I'm ready to get on with life here, and away we go. But I would never tell anybody, hey, I feel safe. You should feel safe. That's totally on their own thing. They have to live with their own sort of conscience and where they're at with it, and go from there. So we solved that part of the world's problems. But I want to get into one thing before. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine?
We're just taking care of business all over the world today.
Imagine if you were president and I was prime minister, how some of those summits would go. We'd start off with a big swig of vodka and away we go. That'd be pretty fun.
Let me tell you something. I am also still in R&D, but I am of a true believership that I think the more alcohol you drink, the more preventive measure against COVID it is.
Well, and they also said weed, and I know some guys. I said that to them. They said, "Yeah, I never got COVID." It's like, one must think, right?
But the research is ongoing.
yeah, exactly, on a daily basis. So just before we started recording, I had asked you were in Blabbermouth there. You said it was January 6th, and it was about Trixter, and you made the comment that you didn't feel that there's, I guess, certain people in the band that probably didn't want to get back together again, and I know that sometimes you'll do one podcast or thing, and then they'll take a snippet of another thing and they'll make it this big thing. For the record, on my show, because I never put anybody on the spot, but do you feel that that's kind of where it is? You feel it's done and life's going to move on? You're going to go on to other pastures musically?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm already moving on. You know what I mean? Our last show together was in the summer. I think it was August of 2017. So it's been some time already. Now, the funny part is, everything was all quiet on the Western Front until one day somebody said something from Jersey. You know what I mean? And that was like 3 years after the fact. So I kind of caught me by surprise, like, where'd you guys come from? I mean? Yeah. I haven't talked to you in a while. It's nice to hear you in the media, And it's just kind of weird how, but maybe, everybody's got to stick up their ass. Everybody's got a problem. But you know what? Do your own thing, Adam. But I hate to say it, from my point of view, it is my belief that at least at this point, and nowhere in the near future, will we probably get back together. I hate to say it. And please bear in mind, we were together. We disbanded in 95. We put it back together in 2008, and we did it for 10 years. So one thing I always said in the past, you don't attack a problem early on, it's going to grow. And we had a problem within our band for a long time. Mm-hmm. No one really wanted to address it. And, like I've said in the past also, when you see us clowning around having fun, that was us. I mean, that was us from like before I started driving, when I joined the band at 16. We were always a bunch of morons, stuff like that. And we were genuinely our best friends. We went to McDonald's together, the whole deal, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Gus, I need a ride. Coming up, dude. That was it. From that to playing music everywhere around the world, we did it together. The one thing we never really wanted to do together was talk about business and talk about how we should do things and things like that. And unfortunately, that really presented a problem and grew and festered over time. And it created a very bad taste, I think, in everybody's mouth. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It was a situation that existed, and nobody wanted to address it. And, particularly later, once we put it back for the second time, we had no management, and nobody really wanted to, sit down and really make a choice. It's either, it's a shame. It's a shame because the biggest thing, I love to play. Right? I love to do it for free. That was my thing. Let alone to actually make a living at it. Oh my God, what a crazy idea. So I guess it's more frustrating to me that certain people don't want it. But, hey, they're off doing their thing, and God bless them. And, I guess I'm doing my thing now. So all good, man.
And, and it's a good point because, I mean, like, you take bar bands, and if you're doing it for a living and, you're making your little bit of money. I don't know how many times, you finally get a good payday and the transmission goes in the truck, or, you know what I mean? And it's, you know what I'm talking about, right?
It happened right. in the big time, too. You just finished the world tour. Oh, yeah, a plane hit my house. Oh.
Right. So, I mean, money always seems to be money is probably, in my opinion, the biggest thing that usually divides people. And it's because it's usually somebody's making it. Somebody else doesn't find out exactly what's going on.
That was not our problem. No. Yeah, I know what you're saying. And let me tell you something. As far as the history of Trixter, we have a very strange history in the sense that all those cliche things, the typical stories you hear where the manager ripped off the band, or this guy was making more money and he tried to cheat you. We had none of those problems, man. We had complete transparency with each other, whatever it was making. And that wasn't it. I'll give you a perfect for instance. I was the drummer. I was not a primary songwriter. The other guys made more money than I did. And guess what? I could give a shit. You know why? Because those guys deserve it.
Fair enough.
It's really that simple. When it came to something like merchandising, that was straight across the board, and that's great. But I certainly wasn't the guy saying, "Oh, that's bullshit. I was there, and I wrote the 2 drum beats." And that it's like, come on. And if anything, even when I did contribute to a song, let me tell you something, Steve, BJ, Pete, he sat down, and I would give Gus this percentage. And at times, it was a slanted percentage in my favor that I said, "Dude, that's a bit much of a half bucket." That was cool. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't something like that at all. It was not, this whole thing is something so different. It's really weird. And I think part of us don't even understand it ourselves because we never really sat down and talked about it, But, we did not suffer from those other things you hear about in other bands. It's just a whole different thing, man. And I think one item got blown out and everybody got pissed off, myself included. Mm-hmm. And it kind of made a big fucking rift. And now everybody's all pissed.
Well, and I mean, it's too bad. And I'm gonna throw something out here because you guys came out.
We're gonna throw something out. How do you say it?
About a yeah.
I'm gonna throw something out there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to bring that.
No. I'll do my Jersey accent next.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll get my Jersey accent going soon, but
bring it, baby.
yeah. So you guys came out in like the early part of the '90s, right? And
technically, the first record came out in May of 1990.
Okay, so kind of on the tail end of that whole, we'll call it, I hate the term hair metal. That to me is like whatever, but you're on the tail end of that, and it was just before the grunge thing kind of came in. You guys came out, and I'm gonna tell you this is like, I consider you a friend now. We talk a lot. I didn't get you guys at first, and I'll tell you why. I thought the songs were good, but it was kind of like how can I describe it? You guys, to me, and you guys are the same age as me. Maybe it was jealousy on my part. You guys are young compared to some of the guys that are out. You're getting all this press. You seem to have the success. And at first, I didn't get you guys. But then as soon as I started digging into the tunes, you guys were all great players. You wrote great songs. Wasn't a weak link in the band. I don't know if you guys kind of, do you feel maybe your band could have been a year or two earlier? You would have had some more success?
100%. Well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, as far as the chain of events that unfolded with, the dawn of the 90s, with the shift, particularly at MTV. It was the MTV that fueled what was going to happen next. They led the world in what was happening at that time. They pretty much dictated what was going to get seen and what was not going to get seen, so to speak, which was the biggest major influence as far as directing youth, misguided youth or unknowing youth, as to what they should be listening to, whether they felt so or not. You see what I'm saying? There's a conscious change at MTV, which fueled this change into the 90s. They took this new, by the way, MTV was pretty new. It really only came around, I'm trying to think when it actually happened. Was it 82? That it actually was born.
Yes,
and by the time it got into everybody's home, it took some time. You know what I mean? So, it was a relatively new platform. And once they had it, they knew right what they were doing. When they played that first video killed the radio star. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had a mission in what they were doing. They had real focus. So with the dawn of the 90s, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You had their top 10 countdown, the top 10 most requested videos of the day. And, bands like Warrant, Winger, Firehouse, Trixter, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, we were, Guns N' Roses were dominating the countdown. And one day they just put an end to it. Trixter was the last number one video on MTV. We died at number one because MTV cut us. And we were never playing on MTV again. That's a weird thing to go from number one to zero like that. Not like a slight trickle down, we fell out of favor. No, we were cut. And they fueled the change. They introduced new bands like Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, stuff like that. And that's really what was alternative became commercial. And what was commercial became alternative. And that's really what fueled the change going into the 90s. So let's get that straight. That's really how it happened, right? And not just small bands, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, same thing. But the real difference was the bigger bands, the more established bands, could go overseas and keep carrying on and return to America later on, where things are more calm and collected, and also when people hungered for it. Same thing with Trixter. When we finally came back in 2008, we played Rock Oklahoma to 30,000 people. You know what I mean? Our second show was opening for Poison in the band Boss. It was 35,000 people there. So, and it wasn't like they were like, they were freaking all crazy. At that show, with opening for Poison, we did our show down off. We had one of the longest autograph lines that you ever freaking saw. I mean, I couldn't believe it ourselves. I mean, the comeback was huge, So it's a very weird thing. And it's funny how media in particular can mold the perception of the people. And I think people have to think about when we talk about the things like we were talking about earlier, I think people really cannot forget how much now, particularly with the phone and internet and social media, has influenced our lives and developed the manner in which way we think and make choices. So, you have to really back up for a minute and take a look at what's going on, man. You develop these feelings inside. I feel passionately about this. How did you come to feel passionately about about that. Did someone introduce the idea to you somehow that maybe gave you a little dopamine effect that said, oh, yes, I resonate? Yeah. So, and let me tell you something, man. This is the whole Psy war, and there are very smart and intelligent people behind the scenes making this happen and directing stuff at you on a daily basis. So, when you start talking about, I don't want to get off too much on a tangent, but people need to understand what the hell's going on. And they really don't. So
that's fair. I think what we're going to do our soap opera cliffhanger here. We're going to say this is the end of this episode, but we're going to come back and tune in next week, folks, when Mark Gus Scott says. So we're going to be back, my brother, and we're going to talk about a whole lot more.
Sounds good, bro.
See you soon.